We're back with our last segment of Talking Law TV, and we're going to do something different, a roundtable discussion about class action lawsuits. They're in the news all the time. They make movies about them. So I thought we may take this opportunity to explain them to people.
They are so much fun.
They are. and I just thought we'd start with some of the famous ones. Everyone's heard of Aaron Brockovich. Okay. And that was a case for Pacific Gas and Electric where they contaminated a water supply. And that was huge, $295 million. And you've seen, I'm sure everyone's seen the movie, and that was you have paralegals like that working for you guys?
Yeah, we have some really good ones.
Yeah.
It might not be as well endowed as Aaron.
What do you think about class action lawsuits as an attorney? I mean, do you want to get involved in one, or do you not want to get involved in one?
The purpose of a class action is for legal remedy which may exist for a group of people but would be economically impossible for a single person to bring.
For example, Apple is being sued right now, we were talking about earlier, for a battery that they said will last X amount of time. Well, it isn't lasting that much time. So how much is the battery worth? And can an individual sue Apple because their battery, they got ripped off for $3? No. So little claims are big dollars when you take them by the millions.
Okay. And the next one to talk about, past one. The one we passed was The 11th Minds was sexual harassment. That was a movie with Charlize Theron called North Country. And
don't think I saw that.
Yeah, that was a good movie. It was where they sexually harassed her, and as a result, they had to hire 20% of the workforce had to be women.
Okay, I don't know if that was a pure class action, but I understand what you're saying. But that was probably one of the remedies, was for them to hire that number of people.
Right.
But a real class action would be like the one you have up here now, and the one you had with Aaron Brockovich, where you have one or two, if one person gets polluted water, no lawyer would take that case because, I mean, what are the damages? They're very limited. But if a whole town, hundreds and thousands of people have this contamination, then they could hire a single lawyer, and then the case all becomes financially viable.
Well, it's like in the movie with John Travolta, Civil Action. He goes after this company, and he had a successful firm, and it ruins everything. Well, that was based on a true story.
Well, yeah, I know, and I always thought about that guy. He would be the partner from hell. I mean,
as a guy on a mission.
That's right.
And here's another one, of course, the famous one, Fen-Phen.
Yeah, and this is not a true class action. This is an MDL, sort of like we were speaking about earlier, where it would have been viable for a single person whose family had lost someone through a death from, say, primary pulmonary hypertension, from this drug. That would have been a viable case. But there were so many filed around the country because there were so many people who were exposed. And there was a different gradation of damages. I mean, you had people who died, and you had people who just had injured heart valves, which is nothing to laugh at, but it's not a huge, not nearly as significant as death. So these cases were filed. Thousands were filed around the country. They were all sent to a single MDL court, and that MDL judge, multi-district litigation judge, handled all the motions, and then as cases were being tried around the country, said, you guys need to get together and settle these. And so then they were settled based on a matrix, depending on how severe the person was injured, what the person's age was, how long they had taken the pill, and that type of thing.
Well, that brings up a point, what you just said. There are three folks that like class action lawsuits: the plaintiff's lawyers, the defendant's lawyers, and the judges. They like them because it makes the judge's job easier. He can deal with all this mess at one time. Both lawyers, groups, plaintiff and defendant, they like it because it's a lot of work, a lot of paid money.
Okay, and then we have one more example here, and that is for Facebook for privacy invasion. And they got almost a $10 million settlement. What I don't understand about this one, and maybe you can help me, is these people put the information out there. So how can they then sue that someone found out about it?
I'm thinking, I'm not familiar with it, but I'm thinking maybe that Janie is putting material out there about Mildred. And it's Mildred's whose privacy has been invaded. It's not the person's own images, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I've always wondered, I've thought about what it would be like to live in an age, growing up in an age like it is now, where digital cameras are so readily available and taken to all sorts of places, and it's easy to take a picture and stick it on the internet. I'm glad that wasn't around when I was growing up.
I'm glad I didn't have those in the 70s. Absolutely.
Or worse, just your cell phone. You don't need the digital camera, just your cell phone. Everybody's got one, just about.
Well, is this something that as an attorney you want to be involved in?
As a class action? Well, I mean, there's such huge cases. There are particular law firms, and there are some locally here too, that are better able to do them. But the ones locally would be more of a regional type of class action. For instance, if there was a cell phone company that was charging everybody $5 a month more than they were supposed to.
And we're gonna get to something like that.
Okay, and then that could be one that would be brought locally. Like this Facebook, this would be a national class action, which would be brought by a firm like in Atlanta or New York or something like that. And this is probably more of a class action where somebody suffered a small harm, but you got a large group of people, because there are three things you have to have a true class action. You have to have numerosity, at least over 25 people. Have a commonality. All the injuries or damages have to be based on a common set of facts. And you have to have typicality. The person who is bringing the case, their claims have to be typical of the whole group. And if that's true, then that, or two or three class representatives, can bring a class action on behalf of everybody.
My office was looking at what you might call a local type class action. It was not Chatham County, it was another county. That sheriff was refusing to pay the officers for keeping the canine dogs. They're entitled under federal law to time and a half for at least 7 hours a week because it's a take-home dog. And the sheriff was saying, my budget won't allow it.
All right, thank you so much. We'll see everyone again next week here on Talking Law TV. Good night.
Closed captioning services provided by the Web Advantage. Design, hosting, and multimedia solutions for businesses like yours. Produced by Tandem Productions. Distributed by Legal Eagle